Okay, it's recorded. Go ahead.
It doesn't announce it or anything?
It's announced manually.
Hey, Will.
Hey. How is winter coming?
Unfortunately, it is.
How is it coming?
Fall is gone. Winter is coming.
Yeah, Win, I know you like it, so it's good for you.
Okay, can we now move on to the agenda of the day? The first item on the agenda is the transition plan for tickets projects assigned to Win. Do you have ideas what needs to be done here?
Okay, Win, what ideas do you have about your tickets?
I think most of my ticket will be for the development side. I think it's going to be assigned to the developer from India, and then there's only a few tickets in relation to what kind of ticket?
So I think for the USIMA thing, probably we have arrangement on, we'll have plan for that. I think the only thing is the clinical decision support and summary stuff. We need some kind of transition plan because Wayne has been the one who been working on it, and I'm not sure if other people have been involved or exposed to that part.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit of how it works technically? When?
I mean, it's still the one that we have from a long time ago, Bert. The one where we use the XSL FO to generate the PDF. I think we were to transition the process. Why I hear an echo from Bert? I think we were to transition it to use the reporting to generate the clinical summary, but we never had the chance to do that.
So I guess the more important question is, do Willa and Alfayo understand how the clinical summary machine works?
Probably Alfayo knows a bit because we discussed about this when we need to generate the ART report, I think. Because at one point we were using a similar approach where each column in the pre-ART is going to be generated using logic rule, but we ended up switching it using completely reporting stuff to generate the column. But I think I can provide some more explanation about how it works.
Okay, so maybe I'll ask something that you already explained, but it's because I lost you somewhere in between. What are the most critical tickets do you have so far, right now? For example, I think the most important project we have, which we should be putting our efforts in, is the Mozilla deployment. And I think, do you have the statistics of the critical tickets that needs immediate attention?
I think for clinical summary, we don't have any critical ticket currently.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just
We will. If it stops working, we'll have plenty of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's more of maintenance of the rule, I guess.
So how often are you touching those rules?
Not since a while ago. I think the last time we update the rule is for the TB project.
So by a while ago, do you mean last week or 4 years ago?
No, like a couple of months ago.
Okay, but it could be something that every couple months there's a tweak to the rules.
Yeah.
And has a FIO or Willa done any of those?
I think Alfayo did a couple of rules for the reporting, but it was a while ago as well, like last year probably.
Several years. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Maybe we'll have to go back and revisit them.
Is there a wiki page or anything that describes just kind of what the architecture looks like and how to add a rule or how to fix a broken rule?
We only have the rule definition, I guess. I can write a wiki page for it, I think. And there is a wiki page on the CDSS space, but I think it's pretty outdated.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're not going to expect to do major development with clinical summaries, but you did a fair amount to get them so that they could be delivered to all the remote sites and, to be run overnight, and, so the knowledge of how they're run, what module and what the key classes are that generate them, the basic, technologies like the XSLFO involved, at a high level, understanding that, and then the most important thing I think would be the common things that you over the last year or two have had to do with it, which is, if there's a new rule that needs to be changed, if a rule needs to be updated, those would be key things to say, okay, here's where you go, or here's how you would do that. And maybe you could, work with Ada or Sarah or Holly or some combination and have them help you put together a wiki page if that makes it easier for you.
Okay.
So rather than trying to dig through all of that right now, maybe do you think you could try to do that over the next week, and then we could take a look at it next week's call?
Sure, but I will do that.
Will you be here next week?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah, and also one thing is for the TB tech project, because Win also helped the project to keep the log. I think also needs some kind of instructions how we can retrieve the log files and things like that.
All right.
What was that? Treat the lock?
Log file.
Log.
Oh, log. It's like that commercial with fraud protection or fraud protection.
It's fraud protection.
Unfortunately, Bert, you become minority here.
Okay, well, and then, because I'm thinking for Willa and Alfayo's sake, going forward, the things that might come up that would be a major headache for them to try to learn from scratch or update knowledge from a year ago to figure out how to solve it. And I know when you're not disappearing from the planet that we could still reach out to you in a crunch and ask you some questions. But clinical summary seems like a key one. The TB logs is another one, and that's probably at least understanding what that is. Are there any other things that you're doing kind of on the day-to-day or month-to-month in terms of maintenance that Willa and Alphayo might not be up to speed on?
I think that's it, but
Outside the museum of stuff, yeah. Obviously.
no, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, the other high priority seems to be the actually Alphayo. I think you did some fine work finding what some of the errors were. How do we stand on the data that was backed up? And do we have a better idea of how much are actual queued messages versus or errored messages versus just redundant or repeats?
I've done
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
done some updates on ticket 32 and I created another one for 33. So basically, from what I'm seeing is that if we process, okay, what is the outstanding data that came in that is yet to make it to production is likely to be part of data that had gone in, because just a few minutes ago I was looking at I had pulled the data, the errors from production, then put into a table that I had pulled the data that we are yet to process into. Then I was doing a comparison and I realized most of them were actually duplicates. So I'm yet to finish it. Okay, it just completed loading the entire 81,000 files just a moment ago. The comparison I was doing when I was about 48,000. So I'll do a final one. But from my current observation is that these messages that are standing on the drop directory are likely to have been already processed and they ended up in the error queue. So the idea is we will pick the messages that are on the error on the directory. We identify the unique ones, which we found about, like, out of the 48,000, we had about 8,199 that had duplicates in them. So we had likely slightly 45 or 46,000 out of 48,000. So given that we now finished the 81,000, I will go through them. Then I'll be able to tell out of these 81,000 what do we have, and then maybe we combine with what is coming from the error queue that we had. Then in total how many messages are there. So if once we find the unique messages, I think the approach would be that we will process the unique messages from the directory, that is those that are outstanding. Then we will keep the log of what we have processed, and then we will bring in unique messages from the error queue. Then we just, if we still have something that had gone to the error that had not been processed, then we'll process those. So I believe
Okay.
there will be few coming in.
So we know there's somewhere in the range of 83,000 that were in May of 2014 that were errors. And you're saying that right now we don't, you know that a lot of those are duplicates, but we don't yet know how many are duplicates?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So yeah, that would,
Yeah, go ahead.
so that's the first question to answer, is to find the unique ones?
Right.
Okay, I'm not sure if Jonathan was reacting to seeing 90,000 errors in the queue, if he was reacting to that and saying, hey, we need these data, or if he was reacting to being in the field and saying, hey, we're not getting data for our patients. So I don't know which, is this something that clinicians are missing data, or is it something that that they're noticing it continuously, or is it something that we know we have a problem in terms of stuff backed up in the queue, but on a day-to-day basis, clinically, most folks are unaware of it?
Yeah, I think it is both. So, Jonathan noticed that people keep on submitting the same data. I mean, the same requests for tests, which have already been submitted. And I think he went on to notice that there are a lot of errors related to PCS on the error queue. So he concluded that we are having all these problems in the field. People are not having data from the lab results. So he concluded that most of this data is sitting in the error queue, which need to be processed. And on the other hand, then when they were working on this, Alpayo and Jonathan, I think they figured that there are other 80,000 plus messages in the PCS. So the thing is, I just noticed people, maybe when we are trying to fix errors in the math, there is this button which is called reprocess. So sometimes maybe somebody is trying to do something and then you just click that reprocess. When you click it, it's just gonna process all the messages, all selected messages, currently selected messages, or actually not currently selected, the ones that are appearing on depending on the selection criteria I've chosen. So probably that is what happened when we were trying to figure out why we couldn't send the PCS messages to production. Somehow maybe somebody clicked the process and then that happened. That's why we ended up with the duplicate. And another thing I discovered, which is very strange, is that so we discovered that we have this there's another channel which is uploading files using the SFTP method, and it is working just fine. So although we disabled the other channel that was failing, this one has been working. So it has been uploading files, and at the same time, files have been going through to PCS using the DB method I created. Although they did not end up in the directory because the database, for some reason, it was failing to put this message in the PCS directory. So on that front, I think we are good because we just have those messages sitting in the database right now. So basically, that is the situation around this thing.
Wait, that last part you said we're good because the messages are sitting in the database.
Yeah, they've not been sent to the PCS directory.
Yeah, so they're not, the data aren't in AMRS. That doesn't sound good.
No, it's fine because there was another channel, a file-based file writer, that was successfully sending the same messages to PCS directory.
Oh, okay, so it's just a duplicate channel. Okay.
So if both were working, then we would have ended up with like 200,000 messages, which is not something we want.
Okay, well, it sounds like that, from my perspective, and I could be wrong easily because I'm far away from the problem, but it sounds like, given the size of it, that May 2014, ensuring that we have the messages that should have gone through the unique messages that should have gone through in May 2014 have been put through. And the other priority is to make sure on a day-to-day basis, any new messages coming in, the vast majority of those, maybe there'll be an error here or there, but the vast majority of those are going through. If we get to that place where we know, current messages are currently working and getting to AMRS, and we've gotten May 2014 sorted, then the dust can settle and we can say, okay, what other historic problems do we have, and we can decide on how to prioritize fixing the history. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we are planning to achieve. Once we completely identify the unique ones, we'll process them. Then we'll ensure that at least messages coming in are getting processed. Then the other things will follow later. So basically, what you're saying is what we plan to do.
Yeah, and that sounds good. The only maybe comment I would say is that we might want to reverse those two, meaning first and foremost make sure that new messages are getting through to AMRS, and it sounds optimistic from what Willa said that they are working, but that in terms of clinicians trying to take care of their patients, if none of their data from PCS, or if we don't have viral loads or HIV results going into AMRS, then they'll be complaining no matter what we do with historic data.
Yeah, so the thing is, we have several challenges because when you look at the messages, you have these 80,000, more than 80,000 messages sitting in PCS. It is difficult. It is very difficult sometimes to differentiate that these are coming from May, because when you say reprocess and this message has been in the queue, depending on what you've been looking at. For example, if you go to the PCS, if you go to the, it is one of those areas in Med. I don't remember if it's not channels. It's called the dashboard. If you go to dashboard, and you say, show me all the sent messages without specifying dates, and you see some messages, or you say, show me some messages that are in error without specifying date, then you'll see all messages in error. And now if for some reason you click the send, in your directory in the PCS, these messages will be seen like they are coming today or yesterday or last week, but probably they are coming from May. So in order to isolate, like, these are the actually unique messages you need to process, we just find that we have to go through the entire queue of messages so that we can know, okay, these are unique, because it's difficult actually to differentiate based on times due to these kind of things that happen. So yeah, that's the priority. And the thing is, now I think they have some work going on in production, and so we can't do anything, because if we install PCS module and we start having problems, then the files that are being processed in production cannot get into the system, and people do not like that. That's why we are still working on the just test server thing, trying to figure out which are the unique messages, and when we are done, maybe over the weekend, or when these guys they have some time, we can do it overnight and get done with it.
Okay, sawa. I think if getting to a point where we can say to Martin and to Kenny and to Jonathan, and they can say to everyone else that we know any new data from the lab, whether it's coming out of the PCS system or it's coming from EID, that those are making their way to AMRS. That will be an important message to clearly send, and as soon as possible, and say, okay, we know we have errors in the past, but everything going forward, should be going through, and so any new data you should be seeing, and then going from that and saying, okay, let's take this, 90,000, whatever, 90,000 messages around May, and sort out the best we can. Okay, well, maybe that is actually only 8,000 messages that were actual errors, but we've sorted those. That would be the next wave to tell them.
Okay, yeah. So from the technical standpoint of view, I was just wondering, regarding this HL7 handler, is it necessary to have PCS override the one in the core and then calling it if the message is not meant for PCS? Is it not possible just to have two separate handlers, like everything is doing its own thing, and you just have the separate queue message for PCS? You get them in the PCS queue, then you get the PCS. So when you have problems with PCS, you don't have to stop things with the core handler. Is there some kind of limitation that is preventing that from happening?
I think the reason that
Ampath uses a custom handler is because there were issues with messages coming from PCS that were specific to things PCS was doing,
Yeah.
and we did not have Mirth or any other tool to transform the messages. Um, so um, so the PCS module was initially the intent was that it would get the message, it would do any kind of massaging or fixing of data that were problems. Sometimes it was like for certain types of tests they would send a blank answer instead of a 0, or they would, or they'd use the wrong data type, or um, and so initially the PCS module was fixing those issues and then sending it on to the handler. And then I think there were some problems that came up, which either it might have been Jeremy or it might have been Brian before him, said, well, to handle these cases, I need to create it. It'll just be easier to create our own handler. I agree. It would be great to get to where we can just use the out of the box handler, but we need to know kind of what the difference. What is our custom one doing for us, and so
No, back actually, what I was trying to get at is just to, instead of overriding the core handler with the one coming with the PCS, why don't we just have, if we want to have a custom handler, why don't we just have a separate custom handler and then just let PCS handle the messages from PCS, and if that is necessary. I mean, putting these two things together, if one is not working, especially if PCS is not working, then you end up having other messages not getting in production because of PCS. So you have to stop PCS, and when you want to test PCS, you have to stop processing requests.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I was.
The primary reason, and I think it's the way things are set up. We're set up with an expectation that Ampath would grow to an enterprise level, and involve probably the hospital system, and in those environments, you often end up with dozens. So imagine having not PCS and EID, but imagine having um, 50 or 60 different systems that are sending messages, and if every one of those you have to write custom code for, and if there's any changes where there's system-wide changes where you say, oh well, we need to do something with the messages for all of these, you have to go and edit 50 different pieces of code and make sure they're correct. That's why people tend to move to a centralized model, and that was the reason for starting and trying to go down the path of a centralized model. When you just have two data sources coming in, it feels fairly arbitrary or unnecessary. And so, and maybe that's, since we've been that way for a long time, we just say that's the way it is, and let's just make it simple to manage for now. We can migrate toward if we get 10 more or 20 more different data sources coming in, we could migrate to more of the enterprise approach, which is chosen not because to make things more complicated. It's actually chosen to make things easier when you're dealing with dozens or even sometimes hundreds of different data sources. I think dealing with two, we're probably making the job harder on ourselves. So I
Yeah.
guess what I'm saying is I agree with you. The challenge in terms of just handling if we take the handler and just say we're going to make a custom handler, is we'll have a lot of redundant code, and well, if there's just two of them, then that may be manageable, because hopefully they don't change often. If they're so that I think I'm I'll leave to you guys in terms of what you think would be most effective.
No, actually, Mark, I think we're on the same page. What I was trying to get at is, see, the way we've implemented the PCS handler, we have it in such a way that it is handling everything. So what we have done is, instead of using the HL7 handler, we've created another handler that is taking every other message and trying to make sure, okay, it is trying to decide, okay, this is for PCS, this is for the core handler, and then delegate it to core handler. What I'm saying is, we don't need to have the reputation of God. If you think, if we know that the core HL7 handler can do what you want it to do, but we need to modify the message in such a way that it will conform to the core handler. Of course, you don't need to recode everything. Just call that whatever that code you're using. Create the.
I see. You're
Yeah,
saying that we're using the PCS handler for everything right now.
yeah, that's what we are doing. So if PCS
Yeah,
fails, then nothing is happening. That's what I'm saying.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So instead of doing it that way, the handler should just be calling the core handler, not overriding it so that it is taking care of everything. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, and I think the decision to overwrite it may have been something that it was, trying to customize something that the core handler wasn't capable of doing at the time, and whether it's that capability has been added over time, or ideally if it's something, some smaller thing as part of the handling that you want to customize. Ideally, you go into the core handler and you add the hook to allow you to customize that smaller part. But it may have been that we just didn't have the opportunity or ability to do that. So I agree with you. If we can avoid using the custom handler, that'd be great. I think, though, it wasn't done just arbitrarily. I think it was done, at the time, because what they wanted to customize was not easy to do. Like the core handler was doing something that they didn't want it to do. So, that was probably 5 years ago. So it's hard for me to recall what the reasoning was, but. So if we can use the core handler, that's great, but just be aware that you might go down that path and quickly find that there's a reason why they used a custom handler.
Yeah, there is a reason actually. The message is being transformed somewhere. I don't remember exactly because I looked at that code some times back ago. So the reason is there. What I'm trying to discuss here or to bring up is the approach. So what I'm saying is we can still modify that message the way we want, but with a different approach. The approach that won't necessarily force us to use this handler for every other HL7 message that is in the queue. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that sounds fine. The original intent was to do any transformation needed to fix issues with PCS and then send it to the core handler.
Yeah.
And eventually someone said, okay, well, I'm just going to overwrite the handler for these messages, and then that became the de facto handler for everything, and that's where we are. When those decisions were made, we also didn't have Mirth, which also has the ability.
Okay.
So move on to the next item.
Yes, yeah.
The next item is way forward for Ampath Hub project. Maybe Wheeler tell us more. Okay, Ada.
So actually, we kind of touched on this before the call starts. So we just want to see how much developers' time that we can afford on a week to contribute on this project, because obviously they're not very familiar with OpenMRS, and also the code that we use to generate the derived table for those reports and registers, as well as the dashboard project needs. So we are going to discuss with the Purdue group again, ask them to be more specific when they mention like minimal supports from outside, how many hours they actually expect from us. So at the same time, I want to ask the developer team to think that how many hours they think they can afford on contributing on this project, so that we can find a common ground somewhere.
Yeah, so Ada, I actually wrote an email in reply to Martin's email. I'm not sure if you've seen that.
Uh-huh.
You have seen it?
Yes.
And the two different things I mentioned that we should consider when going into this contract.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
I think the question is more like if we agree on providing minimal support on this. So how many hours we're talking about when we say minimal support from the developer team?
Yeah, how many hours and what kind of support exactly do they need? I mean,
Yes.
that would be great if we know, because if we just say minimum, I don't think if it means anything.
Yeah, so I'm going to clarify with them on that aspect, but then I think also good to get like a ballpark figure from the developer team to think how many hours a week they can contribute on this for this project.
Okay. Yeah, so you want that figure from us, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, fine. We can take that to the emails, I guess.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. The next item is Zima issues. Win.
Actually, Derek, why don't you join us? It's gonna be nice. And Manu.
Hi, Helen. Derek speaking. Hi.
The apparent will be here.
Can you speak loud?
Maybe you should sit here.
Hi, Ed and team. How are you? Derek here.
Hey, Derek.
Fine, thanks. How are you doing?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Maybe just to give a report on what maybe I've just observed today as we've been working together with Manu Wheeler and Wheeler here.
Is it
Yeah.
okay to talk a little bit closer to the mic?
Yeah, I was saying maybe I can just give a little bit of what we've been working on today together with Wheeler and Manu here.
Okay.
And mostly the observations that we made is when we tried working with the yeah, and maybe this one goes to Win. When we tried to work with one of the tablets here, Muzima could stop and crash oftenly, especially in the process of after the forms have been saved successfully. When you try to scroll to the tabs incomplete and complete, you find that it could crash, and that was on Huawei Media Pad tab. We tried to change the tab. We've tried to change that, but one of the tabs to Huawei Ascend Y210, it successfully submits and gives you an opportunity to move between the tabs successfully. So I think we're coming to a conclusion that maybe we rule out maybe that could be an issue with the hardware. I don't know. And we are using an APK of 5th of October. That is the latest on the Dropbox. At times now you also find that when you download a cohort that has a large number of patients, for example, there is a turbo dispensary cohort. That cohort has a total of 518 patients. You find that it takes quite a long time to even load the clients when you select the clients tab. Yeah, and on the same note, also when you search a specific patient, it also takes quite a very long time till it finds that particular patient. So I think, yeah, those are the issues as per today. But login, it's also possible to log in the first time, but for some other subsequent logins, Will also tried that and he wasn't able to log in again. subsequently. So I don't know. Maybe if someone would address that would be good.
Is it possible for us to get the log information when this happened, especially for the crash?
Yeah, I think it's much possible.
Okay.
That is there, and we also have a screenshot of the same.
Yeah, I think the log would help us to decide
Okay,
what's going on. Yeah.
we'll be sending that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, another thing, maybe we've managed to submit several number of forms to production, and they're still under queued data. That means they haven't processed yet. So it means that we need to request someone from the informatics team, that is either Mincha or Victor, to create up a scheduler for processing the Mzima forms. Yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you, Derek.
Sure.
Do they know how to create the sheet?
The informatics team. I hope so.
Is it
Yeah,
a
so-
scheduler like
We don't know, but you see, we need their approval as in we need to work with them.
Okay.
So they don't need.
So wait. Okay. Yeah, so somebody was Alfio here was asking whether the informatics team really know how to create the scheduler, and Manu interjected by saying maybe we need to work with them together if they don't know, or maybe when you can take up that.
Sure, I can add the scheduler task.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for
So-
regarding Mzima?
Yeah, okay. So, Wayne, from what Derek is saying, do you think these are programmatic errors, especially the crashing, or is it some device-related things, according to your experience?
I'm sorry, what was it, Willa?
I'm asking this crashing, the errors that we get for, especially this experience of trying to submit form, the app crashes, and then sometimes when you try to log in, it takes so long and it doesn't even succeed. Do you think these are programmatic errors or issues as opposed to device-related issues? For example, Derek just pointed out that when you use some of these tabs, like Huawei, then you get the app crashing every time you want to submit the information to the production set. But when you use some other type of phone, the app is just fine. So, what is the way forward here? What could be the reason for these things? And what should be done?
Yeah, I think when an application crashes, it will generate a log. So it's very good log usually. So I think we can only look at the log and see what's going on. We have some specific hardware issues, but we won't rule out it could be a bug in the application itself.
Okay.
Just FYI, when we use the Huawei tablets for testing, we run into a lot of issues. It seems like more like a device-specific issues because when we try to do the same thing with other devices, we don't encounter those issues. For some reason, the Huawei tablet just have more issues.
Okay. So, Ada, does that mean you're going to use different devices in the field? Or is it, that's your question, I think. Yes.
So do one more time.
So, I was asking, are we going to use different devices in the fields, or we're going to use the same device? If it's the same device, then I think we should probably give a solution for it.
I
Because
think it would be like a question for the implementation team for the project. I know they have a few of those devices for the last study, but I don't know. But I don't think they use the same device for the.
I think what's happening is most of our devices here are Huawei, because when you look at what the community health workers or the CHPs are going to use out there, are mostly Huawei smartphones
Correct.
running version 2.3. And the tablet that I was using is a Huawei MediaPad that is running on Android version 4.3. So you find that the one with the higher version crashes, and yet the one with the lower version doesn't. So I don't know. Maybe we look at the log as Win says.
Very good. So I think we have a task here.
Yeah, even like
We're
we
going
tested
to
on we tested on 3 different Huawei tablets. Actually, one of them did not even work at all. It's not even testing about the Usima thing. It's like it just didn't even function. And then we got another 2 Huawei tablets for that reason, because we could not even get the first one to work. And then when we test on the other 2 one, there's some issues that with the tablet itself. I don't know if it's a software problem that on the device itself or the hardware issue. I have no idea. Some of the functionality is just not working, and then you cannot even maneuver between like one app to another app. It's not just specific to Uzima.
Okay.
So what can be done regarding this? I mean, what do we do? Do we have the luxury to choose the device we use, or because if we are stuck with the same devices, then
So Derek,
unless
do you know how many Huawei tablets do you have?
Quite a number, almost 30. Those that are going to be used by CDM providers. Huh?
Please collect the. So Derek, I think the only way we can move forward is to check the log and see what's going on, and then please note the version of Android installed on that device as well.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
yeah. So I think we have one to do on this item. That is direct to create a number of tickets describing Mozilla errors and attach log files for the save. Also specify the Android versions used.
Sure.
Okay. So the last item is the dev open tickets. How do you want us to handle this? To look at. Okay.
Yeah, the good thing is I think most of the tickets that are open are related to the stuff we've been discussing. So, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe if somebody has anything to say about that, yeah, fine. You can say it. But for me, I think we have all the issues at hand discussed and we have the way forward for them. So I don't really think first, we don't have time and I don't think it's necessary to go through the same stuff again.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's it. Any other business?
I just want to point out that the ART 0.1 tickets are all closed, so they're ready to apply to the MRS research. This is for ticket MRS 315.
Okay. Yeah, minus 215. Okay. Thanks, Ada.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.